Welcome back and thank you for choosing Current Connected. Today I want to demonstrate to you the functions and capability of the Victron VE.Bus Smart Dongle. It's a pretty sweet little dongle that gives us some great functionality for our inverters. In today's example, I have one of the Multi+2 12-volt 3 kVA units. This is the 2x120 version. Here on the VE.Bus Smart Dongle, we have some ports on the side, and as you can see, we have two for battery ports, one for temperature port, and then there are three other ports that are labeled CD and relay. However, those are not used at this time. In the box, you'll get a black and red cable. It's about 1.5 feet long, and this is what you use to bring power to the VE.Bus Smart Dongle. You'll also need a Cat5 network cable. In today's example, I'm using a 1-foot cable because this can easily install inside of the actual wiring compartment of the inverter, but this length is not critical. You can choose a longer one if you wish to locate the dongle somewhere else. Here inside the inverter, we have two terminals for positive and two terminals for negative. Now, if you're wiring up this inverter with a single 4-aught cable, you have an open port that we can unscrew and use for our connections to power the dongle. Simply install the ring terminal, washer and lock washer, and then reinstall the nut. Make sure you're doing this with the DC power to the inverter shut off, and then repeat the same thing for the negative terminal. The other end of the wires plug into the VE.Bus Smart Dongle, making sure to match up B+ and B-, positive to the red wire and negative to the black wire. Then you can plug your network cable into the VE.Bus port on the inverter, and then the other end into the RJ45 port on the Smart Dongle. The back of the dongle has an adhesive, and I personally like to just stick this on the underside of the cover so that when you close the inverter, it is conveniently stored inside. Once everything has been connected up, you can restore power to the inverter. In this case, I'm using an Anderson connector to make things convenient. Once all the connections have been made, go ahead and turn the inverter on to the 1 position. And you can tell that the dongle's working based on the Bluetooth light blinking. So now I've opened the VictronConnect app and I can see the VE.Bus Smart Dongle. If I click on it, it will connect. However, it will ask for the Bluetooth password. The default password is 6 zeros. It may need to do a firmware update. If it prompts you to do so, just follow all of the on-screen prompts. Once the update is complete, we hit continue. Then we can select our inverter. You can see here the VE.Bus Smart 12-3000 2x120. If we touch that, it will open the inverter. And now we can see it's currently inverting. The batteries are at 12.78 volts. And it'll prompt you to change the pin. I do recommend changing the Bluetooth pin code. That way somebody doesn't log into your inverter and try to change anything or do anything malicious. For now, I'm just going to hit Not Now. However, I can hit the gear icon in the top right and see some settings. We can turn on and off the inverter with the mode switch, as well as put it in charger only and inverter only mode. We can change the input current limit, which is what this dongle is most useful for if you don't want a Servo GX or digital multi-control. And we'll get into changing the current limit and power assist functions in a different video. We can also create a VE Smart Network, but that will also be for a different video. So essentially the main functions you get are the monitoring, the ability to turn the inverter on and off, as well as change the current limit. On this overview screen, we can also touch the 30 amp current limit, and we have some presets here that we can easily touch. We can also touch the on-off switch to change the mode as well without going into the settings menu. Now, I mentioned earlier this temperature sensor input. This does require a special temperature sensor because it shares the same negative as the power cord. So if you're interested in adding temperature sensing to your dongle, I'll go ahead and put a link to that temperature sensor down in the description. Other than that, that's about all for the VE.Bus Smart Dongle. If you learned something or found this helpful, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and comment any questions you have down below.